Hi there, welcome back to the channel. So today's the day that I'm applying the Wudtone stain to the body that Kevin and I are working on, the guitar that we're going to do together. So my job is to stain it, and I've chosen Wudtone stains. And if you look at the review, the unboxing of it, I show the whole kit. First things first, I'm going to put my gloves on so that I don't do something stupid and like start grabbing the body, because I worked pretty hard on the body getting it ready. If you watch the sanding video, I started with some 120 and I used my leveling block, sanding block that I made that's nice and level. I did all the flat spots like that, you know, carefully, 120. And then I took the paper and I with the grain, all of this is with the grain. I got the sides, this bit here, all of the contours, belly cut, arm cut, contours. Then I switched to 220. Finer grit, take it down another level. And it was there that I started noticing little bits of wood hairs, you know, sitting up. And so I would sand in the light so I could see it. Sand, dust it off, clean it with alcohol, and do it again. I did that several times just to make sure that, you know, it's where it needs to be before we start. And I may have slightly undersanded as opposed to oversanding it, because Wudtone stain, what I've learned is it doesn't like you to go past 220. It closes up the wood, you know, causes the wood to sort of harden and the porosity of it diminishes. And then the stain has trouble, that first base coat will have trouble sinking in. You get a real deep first dark color. So you stop at 220. What I didn't want is any hairs standing up, any like wood grain standing up. So once it was sanded, I took the denatured alcohol, washed it down, and you can see that video, got it really wet. And then I looked for the hairs, and I took quadruple 0 steel wool and just went across the grain to knock some of that off, cleaned it, put the alcohol back on it, and then I used my cheesecloth that's in a light coat of wax, just barely touch it. Didn't want any debris remaining behind and getting trapped in our finish. So as you can see, I like this little contraption because I'll be able to do the entire body without touching anything. Don't have to worry about it drying in some kind of funny way, or wood clamps, which I'm worried would. I tried to use a wood clamp originally before I thought of this idea, and I could hear it like beginning to crack the wood right here. It's very soft wood, so I love this method. It's very safe. Okay, let's go to the Wudtone site, PDF, and get our instructions. Right, so here, what we have, if you go to Wudtone, and I'm not going to be able to read it. Oh, it's letting me. Usually I can't scroll when I have these things on. Okay, so we're going to go, the instructions are a little confusing. I wish Wudtone would make them a little more, I don't know. They're just sort of, they blend all the kits together, which makes sense because there's so many of them. But it gets a little confusing. So I'm finding the one that has to do applying base coat included with all kits. Please see additional notes below with regard to mixing base coat for Olympic Girl, Vintage Blonde, Conch Girl, TV Girl, Surfer Girl, Dairy Blonde, Faded Fiesta, T-Bird, and Azure Sky. If you have any of those, read carefully. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to give the base coat a good shake. Just like they said, we're going to just go slow and do exactly what Wudtone says to do with their stains. Here's our stains. We've got the white, we've got the green, we've got the top coat, and we've got the silver highlights. And the mixing bottle has gone AWOL. There you are, you little sneaker. Trying to hide that box. So this is the mixing bottle. See that? That's what we're going to put our base coat in. This is the green. Very green. Like Kelly green almost. But this cuts it and gives it that surfer kind of teal look. White. Silver highlights. Finish coat. Aged top coat. And the reason I picked the aged top coat, could have just used a regular top coat. But this guitar turned out so beautifully. This is a Wudtone stain job on mahogany. Look at that. I kind of did the neck. Looks fantastic. Wow. Beautiful. Look at the figuring. It really exposed the beauty of the mahogany. See that? Nice. I don't know if the light's catching it or not. So I used the aged top coat on this, and everything went so well with the staining on this, I just wanted to kind of repeat it here. This is a whole different thing, but that's why I chose that one. So here's a little jar top. That'll be our applicator base. Alright, so they said to give the base coat a very good shake. And you put it in something clean like an old jar lid that you can easily dip your rag into. Yes, I did do that. And I actually put alcohol in this to make sure it was good and clean. Now, let me cut my rags real quick while I'm thinking of it. What you don't want to do with this is ever get a seam, because seams will soak up. See the seam in this t-shirt? You don't want to ever get a seam on this stain, because the seam will soak up too much stain and waste your stain. So look, I'm going to just cut this like this. Cut this seam off. Get rid of all that. And then I'm going to just find like a 4-inch square. So about to right there. That's about the right size to rag on. So see this little thing here? That's what I'm going to use, and then what I do is I just kind of fold it upon itself like this, so we have kind of this thing going, like a little applicator pad. And we're going to start by going like this and then straight with the grain, you'll see. Alright, let me put this up here, it won't get dirty. And then we're going to go with our green, go back to shaking it. Give the base coat a good shake first and pour a very small quantity. Now, for us, it's a little different. We're going to start by going into... These kits contain both white pigment and colored base coats. So, give both base coats a good shake. I think I've done enough. And now we're going to take our empty bottle. I'm going to start with this. We'll do the white first. They seal these off with plastic so that it'll keep the air out, because these don't last forever. These little bottles don't. You have to try to keep them sealed up in a bag, an airtight bag, like a, you know, some kind of Ziploc bag, because they will dry up. The other one's dried up on me, but I was able to keep some of it and use it as a touch-up. So I like to keep a little bit of it. So it has this little top on it. I may try to put that top back on to keep the seal together. Okay, so now I'm going to pour about 1/3 of this out. So I'm looking at it, it's filled to the top. This is all just eyeballing. It looks like about 1/4 of it. I'm going to go a little more. So I'll have about that much. And it looks like it took about maybe 1/3 of it. None of this is like super precision, I wouldn't think. So I'm going to put this back on just because it might help keep it sealed a bit. And then I'll put the whole thing back into a Ziploc bag. And then I'll use this little thing over here as the to wipe my hands off. This little seamy thing, since it soaks up stain so well, it should soak up all the mess better than anything. We'll see about that. Alright, now, same idea. Now, I lean towards more green coverage. I've seen some of these Surfer Girl guitars and there's a lot of wood showing through, which I think is cool. But I lean towards more green. But then I noticed that super green kind of kills the like really green, cool, faded aspect of the Surfer Girl and turns it more Kelly, like more, I don't know, gets it to almost like a blue color. So I like to fade it. Oh, well, let's see how much we need to fade it to cover it, but also get the color we want. Alright, that looks, yeah, just a little bit more. And that looks kind of right. We'll see. Okay, so here's our white and our green. Let's see if they look, can't tell, but they feel about right. I'm going to actually tighten them up as much as I can and put them back in their box. I don't lose them. Now, these all, oh, and the silver highlights can be done two ways. You can mix it now, but I think it just kind of scrambles in there. The best way to do it from what I can tell is after you're done with the base coat and you haven't done your top coat yet, you just rub it on neat with a rag. And that's when then you can really get into the edges and find little groove spots. Can't wait. That's what I was really excited about, was these silver highlights. I think it takes it to a next level. Alright, so those are those, and this is this. Now, let's put a top on here and get to mixing. So now, okay, now here's our color. It's starting to come together. So to give it a good shake to see the color that develops. Okay, so I moved the camera a little bit so you'll be able to see it. I'm going to make it where, hoping that it'll be, you know, very visible for you at home so that you'll understand what it is I'm doing here. And I love this stand. This worked out perfectly. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I've already made the mix. Now look, I did 1/3 white, 1/3 green. This was the original kind of Kelly green looking thing. This is Surfer Girl. See how it's much lighter? It's got like a whiter kind of, just prettier tone. Like there and there. It's just like a little more subdued. Alright, so here we go. Making sure there's no dust and debris. Got my special little rag that I made. You watched me make that rag a minute ago. Alright, here we go. I'm going to pour it in. Not too much, just a little at a time. Because you may not need much and you don't want to waste it. Alright, so I put in about that much. If you can see, not a ton. I've got my my lint-free rag that's about 4 by 4. I'm going to put it in kind of like a little applicator pad size kind of dimension, like that. And here we go. We're going to dip in the wood, dip into the stain, and just start by rubbing it in. Yeah, it really does go on light, so this is going to be, it's going to be a challenge to just fill that wood up. And keeping in mind that we don't have to stain this area as much because it has the pick guard, but I will probably treat it the same way I would if it was actually going to be seen, just so that, I don't know, it seems kind of lame to not do a good job on the part that the pick guard is going to be on just because the pick guard is going to be there. Look at that. Beautiful. Alright, here's some more. I'm going to do this spot because this is something you'll definitely see. Different experience than the Cherry Flamenco was, in the sense that it's very thin and that it only has the one color. You know, you have to mix the white and the green together, but once you do that, you're kind of done. And I can tell that it's only going to take 2 or 3 coats. It's going to look fantastic, and it's been really freaking easy. And this is why I like this company, is that it just works. You can spend less money, you know, go get you some Minwax, whatever, and all those products are fantastic. They're good products. But these guys have taken their time to find out what it is that works the best on guitars. Dries quickly, looks good, you know. And man, they've just really done it. It's accenting the wood grain. And then here's like darker because this was a smoother piece that maybe had been sanded harder by the routers. So I'm happy with this, if you can't tell. and then the way you ensure that you're not going to have runs or spots, it really might be the ideal color. Because it's just going on, like, I can't even just, you can see how beautifully it's just already looking. That's insane. I'm so into this Wudtone stuff, man, I'm telling you. That's just looking so pro. Now we're going to go here, do this. And it's definitely nicer when you have a lot of stain to rub in at the beginning point, and then you just go with the grain. So watch this space, this thirsty spot. I'm going to do all this just to make sure it gets a liberal coverage of stain, and then to make sure it doesn't look screwy, I then finish with the grain. Nice, nice. Okay, so the idea is to go around the guitar 2 to 3 times with this stain. And I think it's going to let me do 3 because, and I'll tell you why, it's just drinking it up. It really is, just drinking it up. And there's a little spot here where it had some filler. So I'm going to leave a clump on there. I don't want it to run, but I want it to cover that nicely. Wow. You really can't go wrong, and you can't really screw it up because it's not made to look uniform like paint. It's a stain. So you see the wood grain and you see the varying amounts of stain. Some places where the wood takes it better than others. And I think that's a very natural, perfect thing to have without worrying about trying to change anything about it instead of just going with it. Okay, now we start on the back. Same idea. And luckily, because we have so much route space, we have plenty of room here to hold on to the guitar as we stain and not touch the other side where we've already done our work. And it's not necessary to give it too much thought because, as you can see, it's just really easy. And I like this choice because it's not made to go on super thick like the and I'm actually going to stain the rear of this because I like the way it looks when you leave the this off. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to go around it 2 or 3 times till I'm out of stain, out of this mix. And then we'll let it dry 24 hours and take a look tomorrow. Probably do another coat, maybe a third, however much. I'll probably use most of the stain up, almost all of it. And then I'll give the remains to Kevin so he can give it to the owner for touch-ups. Fun. Thanks for watching. Hope it helped. Okay, so I'm almost done with this first coat, and the main thing that I'm noticing, which doesn't go on as easily as this Cherry Flamenco did, which just was really a deep color, just really covered it. So, I really like the way this looks, by the way. It looks fantastic. So, what I'm doing is I've done this first coat, and I'm going to stop here today. But what I've done, just to give you an idea of how I'm treating it, is I'm holding it still, and I'm doing the circular to really fill it up, and then I finish on the up with the grain. That seems to get rid of any anything that's, and then I'm just looking around at any spot that looks a little dry. Looks a little dry back here. So I'll take the rest, might be just a little bit of, and I'm going to mix it tomorrow, the new stuff. But yeah, there's hardly any, you went through the mix that I made, which was the 1/3 and the 1/3, and I'm just noticing a couple little dry spots back here that I want to address. There's like right here, it looks like less stain than the rest of the guitar, and I got the front looking really good, I think. So watch this, I'm going to hold on to it up here, and I'm just going to go in this circular rub pattern right along here to get that little space. So that is looking really good. Here's the front. That's what we have so far. And it almost feels like dry, like tacky dry. So what I'm going to do, since I got full coverage, I'm going to stop now. And I think I have a path forward. That used about 1/3 of both bottles, right? So that gives me 3 coats, which I think is going to actually be perfect. So right here, I've got a little dead spot. There. Perfect, got that. So as I go along, I can find little imperfections that I can just sort of rub out and then straight up with the grain. I mean, this is outstanding. I hope you see this, and I hope that it's encouraging you to do this color. Let me see if I can get it in the light. Shoot. I have a light back here that I should have had on this whole time. Watch this. I'll light this baby up now and you'll be able to see it. Oh, it would help if I plugged it in. Okay. Now, take a look at this. See that? Oh shoot. And it's good to put this light on here because I'm starting to see little runs that I did. Yeah, it's nice. Straight up and down with this baby. And you think that the rag is drier than it really is. It's a little piece of dust or something. So, here's what we have. Surfer Girl, Wudtone Stain, Old Soul Kevin build. Place Center, Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, right there I'm going to rub a little. I'm actually going to mix up a little more. No, maybe I'll just, this is the first coat. I need just a little more right there. So see how I'm doing this sort of round stuff, and then tomorrow, and then always finishing on the up, you know. So we got this to really saturate the color, really push it into the wood. See that? Really push it in. And now finish on the up with the grain. Looks so cool. You know what it does? It's the translucent nature of it really exposes the wood grain in a beautiful way. It kind of turns the parts that are exposed that don't stain as well, like a darker brown, kind of like a natural finish would, and it exposes it through the stain. Let me see if I can show you a little nuance of what I'm talking about. See how like the wood, you can see it through there? I don't know if you can see this. And here I found another dead spot. So you can see the importance of having good lighting when you're doing this. And the idea of it is to make it look crafty, kind of like aged furniture or something like that, you know, like French look before it was adopted and brought into America. Like all things that come in, we sort of turn it into our own eventually. Alright, look at that. See that? Surfer Girl Wudtone Stain. It's going to be a gorgeous, gorgeous guitar. Just picture that neck and that white pickguard. What do you think, Kevin? Pretty cool? Here, I wanted to show you something really quickly before I go. I learned this last time with Wudtone stains. Alright, so keep the seals on as long as you can until you have, probably looking stupid doing this, but keep the seals on as long as you can so that you, once you take these off, you lose the seal and it starts to get dry. I open the white and you'll be tempted to really clamp these down, and if you do, you'll literally break it. They don't really tighten all the way down. This one does, but I noticed this happened with me last time. I started tightening this and more and more and more, and you keep tightening and suddenly it just keeps turning. So just tighten it to that point and stop. Don't keep trying to turn it or it'll screw it up. And then finally, the silver highlights, same thing. Now watch what I'm going to do. I cleaned out a jar. It's the same jar I was using, the lid. I just wiped it out when I was done with the rag that I was using. I'm just going to drop it all in here and I'll seal it up. And you see this has a seal, so it's pretty freaking airtight. And now that's the way you should store it, or that's the way I'm going to store it from now on. And then it will be good when you need touch-ups, but this will keep it in maximum, you know, perfectness until I'm done. Thanks.